Hello everyone, it's Zeldarinth here, and for today's video on Umamusume, as we have finished Gemini Cup, it is now time to look forward to and prepare for the next CM, which is going to be a Cancer Cup. Now, this one, unlike the previous Cancer Cup, which was a mile race, this one's going to actually be a medium race. So this one is going to be on the Hanshin. It's going to be turf 2200, right-handed, with good conditions in the summer and cloudy. So one of these things is a little bit tricky with this one is now we're kind of moving into the summer one, which summer is a little bit harder spark to get generally. You don't get it as easily randomly in your runs as there's much less summer races that you're actually going to do since you're training primarily during the summer ones, as well as being good conditions and cloudy. It might be a little bit tricky. Now, cloudy is a fairly easy one to get if you're using the Marvelous Sunday Power card, but it can be a little bit tricky outside of that. And so for front runners, it might be a little bit more difficult to get greens and building them into your parents as we are kind of shifting from what we currently have been doing, which has been primarily firm conditions in spring. We had left-handed for the last two, but we are going back to right-handed, which is nice. You can get that one off fine motion if you have her. But this is going back to Hanshin. And one thing, if you know about Hanshin, we'll take a look at the racetrack, is this is one with big, long downhills. And so one thing to note with this one is it is going to be just like Aries Cup, where it is going to now be another Oguri cap, Christmas Oguri cap race, where she is going to be extremely strong in it. Now, I will say one thing is that she is not going to be as strong, and that is because she does not have the consistency that she had in the other one, because in the other one you had a redundancy where you could bring two heals that activated pretty much around the same time to get the acceleration and speed carry over into the late race. While on this one, the only one you can rely upon is the 777s. And so you're going to want to go with 3 heals if you're bringing Christmas Oguri Cap. And that means you're going to have to pass all the wick checks, or she will fail to trigger her ult. And so if you have max wit, that's getting you down to about a 70% chance to activate her ult. And now, there had been questions on, and one thing that I kind of looked at potentially being really strong for her, but is not actually an option here, is the fact there is a downhill right here. And so there is the end closer downhill heal. The problem is this race does start on a downhill. So you're on a downhill for this beginning area. And so if you have the downhill skill, it will activate in this area. It will not activate here. If it did, she would be stupidly strong as an end closer, which is luckily enough not going to work. So she's not going to be as dominant, but still very, very strong. And with that, she's strong. This is also, of course, going to be very good for front runners. This is basically a repeat of Leo Cup, if you remember Leo Cup. Back in, I think we did that one. That was the one where we transitioned from the URA to Unity Cup. So it was kind of a mess towards the end there. But this one, we have a lot more skills going for us into it. So the front runners are going to be even stronger here. And so now you have all your typical things. It is activating in a corner. So you have like all of your gamble stuff that can go off here as well, like Major O, Ryan's ult and all that. It's not a straightaway, so Encroaching Shadow and them are all pretty much dead as accelerations. But for mediums, we do have more gamble options alongside with On Your Left and From the Brink. But being a longer medium, it's a pretty large gamble if you're taking those. So not really recommended. It's pretty much going to be a heavy frontrunner pace CM versus something like Tokyo 2400, where everybody had access to a very easy acceleration in the OG Maruzensky's ult. Now, one thing that I've been starting to use that's actually been pretty good at kind of getting me an idea of maybe what I want to build, as well as the support decks, not only for this CM, but future CMs. If you've never watched the content creator Henry Hansen with his carrot calculator, he actually now has on this recommendations for pretty much every CM, as well as League of Heroes when they eventually drop, on what Umas will be strong, as well as support cards based upon what Japan thought was good going into it. So you will have to take it with a little bit of grain of salt, but this has been taking into consideration everything as it comes out. But there are certain things that I have found wrong in it, but it is a good starting point to kind of get an idea of what you're kind of wanting to go into it. So I will be trying to use this pretty much for every CM as well to kind of talk about the Umas maybe I'm bringing or you might want to bring. And as you can see here, the way they are rating them, they have little stars on the Umas that kind of indicate their strength. They have a Christmas Oguri Cap as being the top dog here in all 3 positions here. So you can bring her as pace, late, or end closer. Your main activator is 777s, so it doesn't matter what position she is in, as long as she triggers on 777s, she can get her alt acceleration, which makes one of the things that I find to be a little bit, to me, not as good in this rating right here, is I actually would put the 5 stars on an end closer, as if you make a strong end closer Christmas Oguri, she, in my opinion, will be much stronger, just having all that extra speed, but she will be very hard to build, as there's very few good end closers out there, especially to get those end closer sparks to get her up, because she is not naturally an A in end closer. And so while she's harder to build, she is very strong in this position. And that's why Christmas Oguri is pretty much the only one good here. Late surgers are nothing but gamblers here, as well as end closers. And so that's why I'm guessing they've rated them pretty low here. Frontrunners, of course, have their consistency with angling and scheming. Now, one thing, if you remember from Unity Cup 2, I don't plan to take it, and I really wouldn't advise wasting the skill points on it, especially if you have more mid-race you can take on your frontrunners, or even potentially your pace chasers, is you have the OG Maduzensky's ult that will activate here. It, to me, was fairly decent during Leo Cup, and that was primarily because we did not have as many skills available to us at the time. So frontrunners, a lot of it was just getting that acceleration and getting up the speed and winning, because a lot of people didn't have mid-race or the skill points to take a lot of in-race speed skills, and thus you could actually take advantage of this acceleration a little bit more than, say, now, where if you miss angling and scheming or no accelerations here and you're waiting to here, you're pretty much screwed at that point with most positions. But just know, I mean, it can work. It's just not as going to be as effective as it was in Leo Cup in that respect. Now, as you can see here on his guide, they also give the recommendations on the stats. As you can see, stamina, not as strict as the Tokyo 2400, being not a 2400, it is a 2200, and having a nice long downhill. This is a track where if you use the calculator, it's not really going to tell you that you're going to run out or run out of stamina, but you might not spurt. And the downhill is the main reason for this. Such a massive downhill. So you got to be very careful when looking at this. This is kind of the good recommendations of where you want to go, with like around the 850 to be kind of on the safe side. Or if you're going with the gold skill, you can get a little bit lower. Christmas Oguri, a cap, of course. With Track Blazer, you can pretty much just ignore stamina. She should get enough alongside with her heals and her ult. If she fails to activate her ult and she dies, it doesn't matter. She was going to lose anyway, most likely in that case. You are really relying on her ult to win, which should, if you get max wit, activate it about 70% of the time. So you gotta get all 3 of the heals to get it to work. Now, this is where another area you have to kind of be careful on this. They do mention Uma 2 being a potential backup skill for her, but it's not really specifically mentioning it in the sense that it's not a backup skill for activating it at a good timing, because it's going to activate up here and it'll be too early. But I think the thought process along that is, if you bring the 4 heals, if you fail one, then you still should be able to activate your ult altogether. And as long as 777s is one of those, you will still trigger it here. But mathematically, you're more likely to activate on the 777s with 3 heals versus failing one of the 4 and then 777s activating. And then you're not wasting the skill points on a 4th skill there. Now, another thing that you may have heard, and this is something I made a whole video and react on it, is with frontrunners, angling and scheming, because of its location here and being so close to the late race, can be a inherit to get some acceleration going into the late race for anybody. And preferably, the one big one that I'm hearing the most value that'll get it is frontrunner, which is true. Frontrunner can take advantage of it. The biggest problem is the amount of skill points that it costs. And that is the fact that there's so many skills as a frontrunner that you're wanting to take. And if you've built strong parents like me, and I can consistently get most of these skills, whether it's playtime's over, you've got ramp up for trying to get yourself back in the first place, tail held high, leader's pride, you have all these skills, you get all of them. You cannot afford them, even with massive discounts. I've had it where pretty much every skill has 40% discounts, and I still run out of skill points to buy literally everything, to the point that I could afford taking on 3 heals as well as Christmas Oguri caps. alt. That's quite expensive. And the biggest problem with that is while that one will help you win outright if you're in first place because you will get more acceleration, you're sacrificing that mid race, so you're much less likely to get angling and scheming and ultimately will lose. And so it is kind of tricky in that capacity on whether or not you want to go one way or the other. The thing is, if you get paired up with someone like me who's not going to take it and have a lot stronger mid race, I am more likely to be in first place and your front runner is going to lose in that respect. But someone like me with my front runners is more likely to lose to a strong pace. Oguri Cap Christmas, because they're going to have that speed carryover acceleration, and without that, it'll be much harder for my front runner to get a strong enough lead to win in the end. Ultimately, either way, Christmas Oguri Cap is going to be very hard to beat if they're a strong one. But here's the other reason why I'd say you don't bring it too. That not many people are going to build very strong ones. If you've probably seen just with the last CM, like there was a very, very weak opponents overall. Just watching all my viewers, their runs, my own runs, my finals, definitely the impact of Track Blazer and running out of clocks, I think, is impacting the overall quality of people's Umas. They just cannot grind them out like they used to. They're burnt out. They're just sticking with what they got. So overall, the quality of the Umas getting into the end of the races or into the finals has been much weaker. And so I'd rather have a very strong front runner that can just get into the front, get angling and scheming off, and beat that hopefully weaker Christmas Oguri Cap. And then there's also the idea of, well, I'm going to have two front runners, but I'm still also going to have my own Christmas Oguri Cap. And hopefully I can actually build a strong one on this one versus the last one. And she could hopefully carry me. Now you will see some people going all in. Another strategy that we saw with Aries Cup was the double dominator with Christmas Oguri Cap. That will be very strong and effective once again. But just know that you don't have the consistency with the 4 heals, with 2 of them activating correctly on this one. So if you go the double dom with the Christmas Oguri Cap, yes, it can be very, very strong, but 30% of the time you're going to miss one of your heals, and you may very well be dead in the water because she's your only ace. Now, you should still make it to the finals like that. I feel like you'll still pretty decently make it to the finals easily with a strong Christmas Oguri Cap. And then you're pretty much saying, I'm gambling a 70% chance to win it. So it could still be strong and effective, but you will not get as consistently high of a win rate unless you bring something like I'm going to do, which is 2 fronts and a Christmas Oguri Cap, which I feel like will get me more win rates and ultimately, for me personally, a higher chance to win in the end, just because of the weaker opponents that we've been seeing overall within the last couple champions meetings. But yeah, that's kind of my thoughts on it right now. It is definitely going to be a front runner pace chaser CM, but of course your gamblers can win. They're gamblers. If they hit though, they hit. Just know the late race is fairly long, and so those gambles that can activate anywhere in here are going to be fairly weak because they have not been buffed yet. In the future, they will be buffed to be only the first half, making them much stronger gamble skills since it reduces the chance of it being too far out. But for now, they are just absolutely not worth it. But yeah, that is going to be Cancer Cup. And yeah, if you have any thoughts on it, you can always leave some comments in. I continue to try and respond to them as much as I can. Not as much as I used to, more so now I'm on the Discord. So if you have questions, you can always join the Discord as well. A lot of people to help you out there. I'm fairly active in it, but there's a lot of other users that are active as well that can help you. But that's going to be it for now. And if you like my content, if you like, comment, subscribe, it really helps. And thanks for watching.